Hi, I'm Nicola Cairncross.
Hi, hello, hey, hi.
I'm going to talk to you about success. Yes.
So welcome back, Nicola here, and I just wanted to update you on the 1 minute video campaign which I'm doing. It's having a rather startling effect on the numbers that count. It's basically increased the views on my LinkedIn profile by 210%, and it's increased the views on my Twitter profile by over 100%, which is quite astonishing really. So I will be continuing with this, and if you're getting any value from the 1 minute videos, do let me know underneath wherever you're seeing them, whether that's on the Facebook page, the blog, the YouTube channel, Twitter, or LinkedIn indeed. So I'd love to hear from you. I unfortunately can't update you on what impact it's having on views on my sales pages, which is the real goal, of course, because all the power's just gone off in Greece. So I'm absolutely internet-less. So luckily my camera works without power for a little while anyway, so I'll try and get this Vzine content recorded for you while the power's off. And then I'm off to Write Club later, so that'll be fun with no power. We'll see what happens there. In the Clicks and Leads Academy, we have weekly live calls where people can just pitch up basically and either ask me questions or just get a load of stuff off their chest, which is often what it turns into, because they've got nobody else to talk to about their negativity, their fears, their doubts, to ask what to do next when you're feeling stuck. But what I don't do is let people wallow. I'm starting to ask people, what's your alternative? Because once you've had a little rant or a little complain about something, then you've just got to think to yourself, what is your alternative? What's your choice? What are your choices here? Because nobody is going to listen to someone who complains for very long. I give my clients about 3 or 4 minutes to have a good old complain. And my best friend Kim and I have always had a policy that we get 15 minutes each to have a good old moan before we start talking about, well, what's your alternative? What's your choice? And so the other thing people are very keen on telling me is what they don't want. I had a client once who was a bank manager, and he knew he wasn't going to be a bank manager for much longer because he knew the banks were getting rid of the older managers. So he knew he needed to find something else, and he didn't really know what he wanted to do. He knew what he could do, but he didn't really want to do any of those things. So we kept looking at what are his choices, what's his alternatives, and we also turned around what he didn't want into positives. So okay, so if you don't want something that means you're going to work evenings and weekends, what does that leave you? What choices do you have where you don't want evenings and weekends? So eventually he found his perfect business, because, and funnily enough, it was right underneath where the bank was. It was a very thriving little cafe that was up for sale, and he didn't know it. And the good news was that he didn't even get to work in the cafe. He got his wife, who was looking for a part-time job, and his 2 sons, one of whom who was at catering college, and they all took it on together. So he provided the business know-how and thought about the marketing and made sure the books were done properly while everybody else did all the work. So he knew what he didn't want, and he knew what he didn't want for about 2 years. So we just kept asking, what are your choices? What's the alternative? So so if you're having a good old moan about anything today, or if you're feeling resistant and thinking, I don't want to do that, why don't you turn it round into the positive and say, okay, well, I don't want to do that, so what would the exact opposite of that be? Because really, you've got 3 choices. You either carry on complaining, you take some action, or you think about what you're complaining about and turn it into a positive alternative choice for you, and then take some action on that. One thing you can't do is just carry on as you are, because it gets very, very boring for everybody else around you. I hope that helps, and I'd love to hear from you if you put this into action and it makes any difference. Give us a comment below on YouTube, Facebook page, Twitter, blog, wherever you're watching this, LinkedIn, possibly even now Instagram, and I'd love to hear from you. Speak to you soon. what's on the blog or the podcast this week? Luckily, I can tell you that because even though the power's gone off, I still have my trusty mobile, and while the signal is a bit intermittent, it still is enough to get me on 3G. Woohoo! So, Vzine number 77 is out on the blog this week, and I'm talking about fairy tales. And the reason I was prompted to talk about fairy tales was because we covered it in a Write Club, the podcast recording. If you're a reader or a writer, you might want to check that out. It's good fun, and it's not anything about business at all, so you might like that as a bit of light relief. Basically, I'm talking about how everyone grows up with the fairy tales around them, women particularly, and how we're always looking for someone to come and save us, and how that manifests itself in your business life, and what you can do about it, in fact. So go and check that out. That's Vzine number 77. You can subscribe to the Vzine most easily on YouTube, in fact, because there's a playlist there, and you can go subscribe to the playlist. What else is on here? On the 1 minute videos, I'm talking about podcasting, how it's still growing in popularity, and how you really ought to start with one for your business. And I give you a couple of cheap or free, easy resources to get started with podcasting. I'm also talking about the one thing that will hold you back. This is the most important 1 minute video of the week this week, because it's proving very, very popular. It's the one that's getting the most comments and shares on my Facebook page. I'm also talking about how if you don't have any resources, you've got to learn to be resourceful. Go and check that out. And nobody cares about your money like you do. That's another one. And on Own It the podcast this week, we're talking about the internet and social media. Are they a force for good or evil? Judith's rather down on it all this week, but I am as ever optimistic, and I also don't believe that you can ruin your kids by letting them use the internet as much as they want to, obviously supervised. I think it's absolutely an essential skill, and if kids don't get used to using the internet, using new technology, and self-regulating on what they watch online, then it's going to be a pretty poor future for them. So I think by limiting them, you are limiting their potential. So have a listen to that, what we say about that. It's episode 204 of ownitthepodcast.com. And as you can tell, the power's back, which means the power tools are back. Not just the lighting, but all the builders and the strimming of the olive trees, and we've got some stonemasons working down the road. So I'm going to let them get on with it, and I'm going to go off to my Write Club meeting now. See you later.